Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Joanna Danielle. We at Wounds to Scars work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse. Today, we're going to talk about some tactics that abusers use even after the relationship has ended to control and manipulate the victim. And so I'm here today with Michelle. Michelle works with Wounds to Scars. Michelle runs the groups for women who are in abusive relationship or have ended an abusive relationship and want to heal. Michelle run those groups as well as verse by verse at Wounds to Scars. And we'll put the links for those in the description below. So today we're talking about some tactics, Michelle, that abusers use. And the first one I
Yeah.
want to talk about is smear campaigns. How does abusers use smear campaigns before I go through the list that I have?
Abusers can use campaigns by weaponizing personal information. So,
Yeah.
for example, in my previous role as a domestic abuse advocate, we had many clients who would have to go to the police because their partner have used personal information, uh,
Mm,
sensitive photos, and it's usually in intimate relationships. It can happen within siblings and
yeah.
in a family setting, but in this particular setting, I think we were talking about in personal relationships. And so we would have clients who had have to go to the police because sensitive information was put out into the media, and we call that digital stalking. So
Mm,
digital stalking is when a perpetrator will weaponize your information, sensitive information, love letters,
yeah.
sensitive photographs, that type of manner, and they would exploit the information. Sometimes they would add more, and they would spread it all over social media, or they will, go to your friends behind your back, your friends and family members, and try and manipulate them and saying that that you are of this type of person, and they
Yeah.
would make a massive scenario saying, I didn't know she was like this. I remember having
Mhm.
a client who, when she wanted to leave the relationship, she realized how abusive it was. She wanted to leave, and the perpetrator used her information and said that she was a prostitute
Oh, wow.
because she sent a personal photo, an intimate photo, bearing in mind they were in a relationship for nearly 3 years. And, she
There are
trusted
things
this
like this.
person.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's no reason why she would think otherwise. And
Yeah.
because she said she wanted to go away, and before that, he would say that he was going to commit suicide. And he just used the emotional abuse. And this is what it comes under. It comes
Mm,
under emotional abuse, and
it
that
is.
type of abuse is a literal crime.
It
You
is.
can go to the police and you can get support for that. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, this tends to happen a lot.
Yeah. And some people don't know that that's what's happening when you share intimate information in a relationship.
Yeah.
When that relationship has ended, this person is threatening to
Yes.
tell people this relationship, and they will recruit. This is one of the things I have, that they recruit mutual acquaintances to take their side in
Yes.
this smear campaign. And sometimes the things that they will say is not the truth. Sometimes it's lies, it's half truths, or
Yes.
well, half
Usually hard
truths or
truths.
lies, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also exaggerate the
Yes.
story to make it sound more salacious,
Yes.
than it really is. And the whole reason for a smear campaign is to get people on their side and to
Yes.
damage your reputation.
Yes. And may I say, it's a form of control when
It
they
is.
realize they have lost control. It's a very pivotal point in the relationship where if it's not going the way that they want it to go, they will control you by utilizing your information and weaponizing it to your family members and your friends.
Mm,
And so this is not love.
no,
This is
no.
it's heinous,
Yeah,
and
and
you cannot control someone you want to love.
yeah, how important, Michelle, because we work with women in the church and Christian settings, how important it is for people to know this, who are supporting women. Somebody disclose or somebody roll up to church and is telling this story. How important it is, because sometimes people don't know what abuse looks like. So somebody might
Yeah.
come, a perpetrator is telling this story, and it sounds so amazing and alarming,
Yeah.
and they don't know that this is because the relationship has ended, or the relationship had manipulation in it and
Mm.
psychological abuse in it. And so why would you be telling me such intimate information a crime wasn't committed, but you're telling me this person's story. How important it is for, church to know that, hey, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
How
Awareness is paramount because this is the person's life,
yeah,
their intimate secrets that they have shared or disclosed, the shame and the guilt that the victim already feels because
yeah,
abuse hides in secrets. So by the time the individual speaks to somebody in a position of church or position of authority, the shame and the guilt is already intact. And so it's
absolutely.
imperative that we are trauma informed, that we
Yes,
are victim centered, and that we have an awareness of the whole scenario, the
yes,
impact of that scenario, the self-esteem, the lack of confidence, the fear, the shame, the guilt
shame.
that victim
Mm,
is already experiencing.
mm,
All these things encompass all these are all the elements that we need to be mindful of. So when an individual discloses to a church member,
mm-hmm.
actively listen, and
Yes,
if there's a reason for concern, that has to be shared with the safeguarding leader, whoever the safeguarding leader in the church is. And if you don't have one, find one, make one, or you go to your pastor.
yeah,
Hopefully that person in position will be trauma informed, but awareness is paramount. And the
absolutely.
worst thing you can do is spiritualize it and say, my sister, forgive him and pray.
I
That
know,
is the
right?
absolute worst thing you could do. If
Wounding.
someone is coming to disclose to you the abuse that they're experiencing, and especially in this form of abuse where the most intimate things have been
Mm,
shared,
mm,
and they have nowhere else to go. And because
nowhere else.
sometimes the church doesn't have a system where they have a safeguarding need where they can protect you. So, and you don't always want to go outside. You may not want to go to the police. You may be seeking advice. Where do you go? And so it's important for us to be trauma informed, be understanding, be empathic, first of all. Be
Absolutely.
very empathic and just have an awareness of your environment. Document what's been said, and
Yeah.
take the following steps.
Absolutely. I find that, safeguarding leads don't always understand domestic abuse,
Mm,
psychological abuse,
yes.
narcissistic abuse. They don't understand it. What they mostly understand is he hit me or a child disclosing. But these kind of parts of safeguarding, they don't really understand these
Mm,
kind of intricate detail, the nuances, around abuse. The next one I want to move on to, Michelle, is character assassination, which is kind of linked to smear campaign, where
mm,
they're assassinating somebody's character by saying when they're sharing the stories that were told to them in an intimate relationship, people are going to share their
mm.
lives, they share their
Of course.
experiences,
Yeah.
and so when you go share, when your somebody's story is shared, it's undermining people's credibility. If
Yes.
people see you in this light, I'm going to make sure that they no longer see you in this good light. So it's
Mm,
undermining somebody's credibility. Sometimes they will call them crazy, unstable,
yes.
unfit. They have a mental health problem,
Yes.
even diagnosed mental health. They will undermine the victim's parenting, or undermine their ability to function in a role, in a position in church
Mm,
or in the community, or in any settings that they're having, when they share private and confidential details
mm.
to shame victims.
Okay. Yes.
So that's what's happening. The next one is gaslighting at a distance. How have you seen this work? Where, because sometimes people think, okay, so we're broken up, the relationship is no longer on, and they think
Mm,
gaslighting has ended. How are some of the ways that perpetrators gaslight still, even after the victim thinks the relationship is over? And sometimes, and I must clarify this, Michelle, because some people don't see themselves as victim because they didn't know the relationship was abusive. They
yeah.
didn't know that what was happening was psychological abuse or emotional abuse. They didn't know that.
Mm, yeah. So we often talk about the gaslighting remit, and when we're doing risk assessments with my clients in the past, or when I'm speaking to individuals, and we would ask them specific questions, and it's pertaining, especially with gaslighting, it's very, very subtle. If you're
Yes.
not aware of what's happening, it's very subtle. So, for example, sometimes in gaslighting, they may promise you something.
Hmm.
I'm going to I'm going to get you a car. And I remember this happened with a very close friend of mine. They, the partner said, I'll get you a car, and I will help you with your children. I'll help them go to teens camp. I'm just giving an example. And then they said they'll do it in a few weeks' time. And then when they come and say, oh, do you remember you said that you'd help me to get the
I didn't
car?
say
Is it
that.
possible for you to help me now? I didn't say that to
I
you.
did not say
I don't
that.
recall saying that to you. Why would I say that? Why would I get your car? Aren't you working?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all the other time, you said you help me for my children to get to teens camp. Is it possible to help me now? I don't recall saying that to you. Why
Mm.
would I help you with your children? We're in this. It's just you and I, isn't it? What does your children have to do with the relationship? Didn't you say that they were independent? So they would
Mm.
put subtle intonations in to make you doubt yourself, to make you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so ashamed. Yes, I'm
Mm.
independent. Why should I ask for this help? He's helping me. He's helping me by letting me know that I'm independent.
Right.
When people have made promises to you and said that they will support you, and as soon as you remind them, they pull it right back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a form of gaslighting, and it's
Yeah.
very, very painful
Yeah.
because it's so subtle. You start to have doubts about yourself,
Yes.
and gradually you'll feel that your critical thinking skills will go, because because you love the person, you're not going to be aware that he's actually preparing your mindset to think that there's something wrong with you, because
Yeah.
it's a very gradual
Yeah.
purpose. And so you start to second guess everything you do, even
Absolutely.
to the point where you second guess your mental state of mind.
Absolutely. And that's another way it continues even after the relationship has ended,
Yes,
because they'll
yes,
convince other people that
yes,
something is wrong with you,
yeah,
because they're going to deny the abuse ever happened. They're going to deny the things you say ever happened, and they will convince other people that you're making things up.
yeah.
So,
And these are very, bearing in mind, these are very
absolutely.
charming personalities,
Well
big
loved.
personalities.
Well loved.
Yes, not necessarily. They don't even necessarily have to be popular. It could be someone who's very silent, but when he speaks, he articulates well, and
Mhm.
because of that, you don't tend to want to challenge. So
Yeah.
other people that might hear the information that he's already said against you, they're not going to challenge, because they'll look at him and say, "Oh, well, he's so
Not
articulate,
he.
he's so well
Yeah.
spoken.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had this position in church. Why on earth will I challenge it? It must be her. It
Yeah.
must be her."
Yes.
And so,
And especially
yeah,
if they know anything about you before, then they'll
yeah,
conclude that's why often women feel isolated. And
yes,
this is where religious abuse happens, because
mm,
they will go, yeah, it must be, because, as you said, these people are very articulated, very
yes,
charismatic sometimes, but
yes,
quiet,
yes,
silent, intelligent, knows the Bible really well. People love when they do Bible studies or share
mm,
anything, and so they use that to their advantage when they're doing the gaslighting.
yeah.
And so it's easy for people to choose their side, and women often feel leave these churches feel really wounded, really hurt,
Yes, yes,
because
it's hard to come back from that,
it's very hard.
especially when the perpetrator tends to ask other people to call you. Oh,
Yes. Oh yes. Yes.
and this is after the relationship. So you've left, and they will call other people and say, I think there's something wrong with sister so and so. Could
Yes.
you call her? She
Yeah.
said these things to me in the relationship. And the pivotal point was, I was scared to say anything to anybody.
Yes.
So it would be, so they'll already set up the narrative. They
Yes.
establish a narrative for the other individual, and then that individual will be calling you with with the perpetrator's narrative, not
Absolutely.
always finding out. And unfortunately, there are people that are very quick to listen. They're very quick to
Absolutely.
hear that,
Absolutely.
especially
Absolutely.
if you already have a preconceived idea of
Yes.
how the victim is. They're
Yes.
happy to hear the negative
Yes.
narrative, and they will not challenge you. So I
Yes.
would suggest in that point, it is best to say nothing. Do not talk to these individuals. They owe you nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And
you don't.
you do not owe them an explanation. It
Absolutely.
it will be hurtful, because one
Yes.
of the tactics is isolation tactics that they
Yes.
use. And so telling the
Yes.
story to friends or mutual friends is meant to isolate you and to leave victims on their own. And so a victim sometimes might be tempted to go, let me go clear it up. Let me go tell them the truth. And I
Yes.
sometimes say, control the narrative. You tell
Yes.
your story. If
Absolutely.
they're threatening to tell your story, the information that you share with them, you control that narrative. If it's a story that you've never
Absolutely.
told, you're healing from, you control
Yeah.
it. However, if when it comes to gaslighting and the abuse, and you know what you live, you know your experiences, and they tell these
Yeah.
people that these things are happening,
Absolutely.
it's meant to turn mutual friends against you. If these mutual friends are choosing to believe and choosing
That's
to
right.
take the side of the perpetrator, as Michelle said, they owe you nothing. Let them.
Yeah. You don't need to justify yourself to them,
Yeah,
because this is when real friendship shows itself, isn't
it
it?
is. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, we often, you can't choose your family, but you choose your friends, and
yes,
we can choose to refuse. Some friendships are seasonal,
yes,
and when something is wrong, you see the characteristic of that individual who you say they're your friend. And so, if they're showing up in an ugly way, in a way that's harming you emotionally, psychologically, you owe them nothing. You don't need to justify yourself to them. And it is
yes.
it's a difficult place. It is a
Oh,
difficult
it
place,
is. It
but
is.
it's important to to have, you've got to own something back for yourself. You've got to keep something back for yourself.
Yes. It's
Otherwise you will lose yourself emotionally into this negative environment,
yeah.
and it's a trap that is hard to come out of.
Yes. It's intended to cut off your support system.
Yeah.
And I want to end with, that's why we have support services at Wounds to Scars.
Yeah.
That's why we have a support group for women who are healing, or is trying to make sense of what's happening, so that you're
Yeah.
not left on your own. You have to, unfortunately, apply, not unfortunate, but you have to apply to be a part of this. So I'm going to put our email below this video, that you can complete an application form, so we know we have to screen, because we have to know who we're letting into this space, so that we're keeping our members safe. um,
Yes.
I want to thank you for watching this video. If you're a leader watching this, if you're a leader or somebody who wants to support people in your church, our level 1 safe relationship guide training starts the middle of September. I will put all the details below the video as well. And it will also be on our website at woundstoscars.com. Be a part of this training so you can understand some of the nuances of abuse, and you can learn how to support victims. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below, so that the video can have more reach and more people can know about this amazing life-changing information.